Welcome, Spear Lifters. Thank you so much for being with us today, and I hope you're all doing well. Today, I have the pleasure to have Maria with us, who's going to talk about social distancing and the quarantine situation that most of us are in all over the world. This, being in our homes or wherever we are, where we can't socialize and interact with people as we're used to before the coronavirus basically took over, our whole way of life day to day. Recently, it's so important to know and understand what social isolation and distancing does to us, does to our mental health, how it affects us in terms of anxiety and stress. And I'm so curious to get Maria's expertise and to give you all Spirit Lifters insight into this topic today. So during the video, I would please invite you, because this video is for all of you, just to comment and give your feedback and let me know what you think about Maria's insight into this, because we're all in the same boat right now and it's such an important topic. So Maria, welcome to Spear Lift. It's a pleasure to have you today.
Hi, Devon. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. And well, I will just talk just very short about myself a little bit so you get to know me. I'm a philosopher and a Lacanian psychoanalysis. I work as a translator also in a publishing house called Paradiso Editores. And I have been working with children and adolescents in government institutions and ONGs for most of my adult life. So, well, now I spend my time basically in private practice. And well, that's me. So thank you, Devon.
All right. No, thank you, Maria. And I really think that, this discussion today will be really insightful. A lot of different people, a lot of different situations for people who, really have been in this situation of social isolation, not being able to go outside and socialize as they were used to before. People, moms with, who are staying home working with kids in the house every day, elderly people who may not, who may be completely on their own and have no way to socialize. There's so many different types of people in this situation. So I'm so curious to share with our viewers, the Spirit of viewers, from your expertise. My first question for you today is, how in general does social isolation affect our mental health? Just to start with that.
Okay, well, I will try to be brief. I think this is very important to underline the fact that every person or every family is living a different situation, even if we are all isolated. No, maybe some people live alone, maybe some people live alone and they are older people, and maybe there are big families, or maybe they are partners. So the effect it's going to have on us, it will depend on the situation we are on, and also of our previous mental health, of course. No, if we have been struggling with anxiety through our life, of course, maybe it will be a much difficult situation, no, to cope with anxiety in close quarters with other people and with the capacity without the capacity to go out to work. No, we are also having much more expectations or different expectations on ourselves. No, like as a mother, what should I do with homeschooling? Or as a grandfather or grandmother who can't see their children or grandchildren and they can't help. Or even us as adults that we just also think we can't help others. No, so there is frustration, there is anxiety, there's a stress, and well, the uncertainty of what is going to happen and how many more weeks we are going to be in our houses. It's also a very important factor, no, in our mental health.
Okay. No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we don't know really how long this is going to be. And, even if this weren't the issue that it is for most people, there are still people who in a certain way are also in some capacity social isolation. And so I'm sure, there are a lot of anxieties that come for people that are, not normally social creatures, and so it's really important your insight of, what we can do to, best help ourselves in our situations, with social isolation. So regarding that, then my question then to you is, like, what are, with all the different types of people and situations that we are in with social isolation, is what are certain activities or recommendations for people to really reduce the stress, reduce the anxiety that we feel in these situations that we're in? What are your insights to that, please?
Well, I think that one very important one, which we have heard many things about it until now, I mean this past week, is to establish the routines for our day, to have structure on the day. These routines have to have activities, everyday activities of self-care and cleaning the house, but also new activities for every day. Another one is to be really clear on the when do we work or when do we study, and then when do we have time for rest and for being with the others we are having this quarantine with. Another thing is to pay special attention to sleeping well. This is very important for children, but also very important for adults. So, it helps memory, it helps to stay much more centered, and just to remember to sleep well. Also to eat well, and at the same hour, to maintain also a rhythm and a schedule for our bodily functions. And I also think that to have artistic activities, it's very important. Music, play or listen to paint, or anything that can highlight our aesthetic sense or perception, because we need this, because as a humanity we are living a very traumatic moment, and many of our generation haven't lived something like this until now. So we have to also remember all the other aspects of human life and not only tragedy. So it's the aesthetic component is very important. Also the sense of humor. I think every one of us can achieve a certain humor even in these kind of situations. As we all know, in the story of humanity, humor has been something very important in times of tragedy. And be very careful with the kind of amount and kind of information we consume, because we can't, as human beings, process all the images, all the information that we are receiving. So I would recommend to have, 1 hour in the morning and maybe 1 hour in the afternoon to see news, and to let yourself get anxious and get preoccupied, but also to have a moment for those feelings, if that's possible. I know it is not easy, but it's a recommendation, and maybe we can try it. Also, to establish time to call or by video phone to family or other friends that we are not close to. It's very important to have that communication going. And another very important thing, I think, is to have times of quiet and loneliness. Of course, if it's a person living alone, that's going to be much easier. But when it's a big family or a small family, or even with a partner, it can become very difficult to have times on your own. But it's very important to have times when you don't have to be there for the other, and you only have to be there for yourself. And of course, exercise. We know that exercise, even inside the house, we can do so many things. And it's very important for our brain chemistry, and for our sense of well-being. So those will be some of my general recommendations.
Okay, no, that's very valuable, and thank you so much, Maria. And yeah, the more we can pay attention to those things that we can do to really help us and be disciplined about it, that's certainly going to help us improve in the long run. So, and speaking about the long run in a certain aspect, we don't know, and we're all in different countries around the world. Each country's handling this situation quite differently, according to their own, I guess, discipline as a culture, society to handle it. But let's say, I don't know, if we do not know when this, will end and when we can get back to life before COVID-19, how can we reduce any stress or anxiety that we may feel when we see no end in sight, and where social distancing and quarantine, feel like the new reality? What's a good way that, we can maintain at least diminish that type of anxiety on it, with having those kind of thoughts like, well, this is the new reality. How can we help that?
I think first of all, it will be to give us the chance, each one of us in our own way, to tell ourselves exactly that. We don't know, this is a paradigmatic shift in a way. I don't know in which way or in which ways, but it is. So we are going to feel a lot of stress, a lot of uncertainty, and not feel guilty about it, or not trying to really control that, because we can't at some point. I think it's very important. That's why doing some exercise, also meditating, or doing some exercise, some like internal work with oneself in silence. It doesn't have to be meditation in one specific way. There is all kinds of mindfulness tools available, and also to talk with the specialists. No, I think it's very important to maintain communication if you think you need it. If you were in therapy, to continue your therapy, no? And or if you, of course, were seeing a psychiatrist, to continue to be in communication, because that's very important. And to give way to resting. We have been living the past 30 years, 20 years at least, in a hurry that being exhausting for most of us. No? So I think it's a time also to have the ability, maybe not to decide completely, but to allow a new kind of affection and sentimental experience with ourselves. No, we have a time with ourselves, those of us who can stay home, no, because we know there are many others who can, but we can stay home, we have a responsibility to take care of ourselves and to give way to new possibilities of how to live the uncertainty, the anxiety, no, the frustration. And also to let yourself mourn, no, because even if you say, well, I'm fine, no, I just stopped seeing my friends and I can't just go and I don't know, like many everyday activities, but you are losing stuff, no? And we haven't just realized that we are mourning that stuff, and there hasn't been a space for mourning that. And from daily activities to people who have lost people in their families to the COVID-19, no? There are many ways we are mourning, that it's important to be aware of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree, and I think that's very we find, like you were saying before, that we find the right things that work for us, that, maybe things that we've never tried before, that can really, and I think in a lot of it, maybe you can tell me, like, just discipline to try certain things that do help reduce stress, that do help reduce anxiety. When you mention control, let go of certain things and embrace other things that will really maintain better your mental, your even physical and emotional situations, right?
Actually, yes. Also, even the very strange feeling of losing control, no? Yeah. If we realize that we don't have much choice, no, and we just let it happen, it can be very pacifying, no? To say like, okay, I will just do what I can do in my small environment or my small world, and we will just see, no? Sure. I think part of the anxiety and depression that is caused by this situation is because we still are hung up in controlling, because we are really afraid that we are going to lose. And I think to accept the fact that we are going to lose something, no? And we will feel awful and we will feel sad, no? But we can also discover, as you say, many other aspects of ourselves we haven't had time, no, to turn and see. And I think it's a very important moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. We just gotta embrace other ways of seeing this and let go of the rest, right? And manage the best we can until it's over, you know? So Maria, thank you so much for being on Spirit Lift today. I think this was extremely helpful for our viewers. And Spirit Lift viewers, you know, I would really appreciate, and it would be great if you could just, you know, put your comments below. Was this valuable, or there's certain concerns that you have also about the situation, quarantine and social isolation? It'd be great to hear your insight, and so just comment below. And Maria, where can people find you if they want to know more about you?
Well, I will leave you my email, Devan. It's ma.orvañanos at gmail.com. And well, they can write me, write an email, and of course I will answer.
Yeah. Okay.
Whatever they do.
That's excellent, Maria. And Spirit Lift Views will include her information in the video description box below, in case you want to get a hold of Maria. And we thank you so much for being on this episode today. We hope you're all well, and we'll see you on the next video. Take care.